and me. Everything that we've been through has made us strong. You won't believe.
Hi, Lucia here from paintingdreamscapes.com. Do you have a hard time painting backgrounds, especially leaves, trees, and everything green? Well, then you're in luck, because in today's tutorial I'm going to show you my technique for painting leaves that will make you fall in love with painting backgrounds. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is choose the brush tool, but I like using the stringy L brush because it allows you to play around with the shapes of your leaves and makes them look a little bit more natural. So I like using that, but if you don't have this brush in your program, then by all means you can just use the pen and just set the minimum size to 0 so that you can create the usual shape of the leaf and you'll be golden. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pick the brush, and now I'm going to create a couple of shapes so that we can practice. Okay, so this would be like a very common shape, and then we can try something else like this one. And you can see my color palette here at the top. So for the base color of the leaf, I use this dark green. I'm going to use this other green here, and I'm going to go over, reduce the settings. I'm going to go over the shape of the leaf, and you will see how the stroke creates a gradient, and that's what we're aiming for. Try to recreate the original shape as closely as possible, but if it's not possible, then don't worry. As long as it looks like a leaf and the gradient is there, you'll be golden.
I got you, don't wanna show us off, but you're my all that I need. Trying to sugarcoat.
Okay, so now we can repeat the process, and this time we can color pick the brighter color and repeat the process until we reach the ideal color gradient. You can go over some of the edges if you need to, and that's it. That's how we paint leaves. Now if you want to go even deeper, you can select the brush and reduce the size, and then you can paint the veins of the leaves. So going from edge to edge and then adding some details here and there. Now you'll only be doing this if you're actually painting a leaf up close. If you're painting, you know, all of the leaves in a tree, you wouldn't be adding details to each leaf because that would be tedious. But if you want to paint some leaves up close, then you can definitely do this and play around with it until you feel happy. So you can color pick from the shades that you've already used on the leaf. Now some leaves have the veins on the same exact area, and some have it on like opposite sides, if that's what you call it. So they don't match here. They use different spaces, so like the different dots. Now you can also choose the brighter greens and then go over some of the areas as well.
The leaves are turning brown. I'm still looking for you.
Okay, so now it's up to you if you want to go any deeper with details. Like maybe you want to give them create some holes in your leaf because maybe there were some insects there feeding or something. Or if you want to correct any details or even the shape of the leaf. Nice. Okay, so now that we know how to paint them up close, now these are not perfect leaves by any stretch of the imagination, but they do look nice enough, and this is a pretty quick tutorial. Hey friend, if you're enjoying this video, please hit that like button, and if you want to watch more content like this, be sure to subscribe and click the bell to receive notifications. What I like to do now is I'm going to show you how to actually paint these if we were painting a bush or a tree. So what I like to do again is just pick the brush tool, and first of all I just create the general shape, okay, so that we have something to compare to. And I'm going to again pick the darkest color here, and I'm going to create the general shape of the bush. So Just going to go ahead. And I'm not being very careful with this. You don't need to be, because you're going to be creating and correcting this later. So just a general shape. Add some spaces here from areas where maybe there's some light poking through, because bushes aren't 100% dense. They, you know, have some spaces from the leaves. So now I'm going to again pick the brush, and I'm going to create the silhouette a little bit better, and I'm going to be like slowly adding some brush strokes here and there to create the leaves. This isn't perfect, but it's just the overall shape. I like to go in like groups, because you know, leaves tend to be in groups as well. Painting these leaves individually is a bit of a pain, but it does look nice in the end. Now I'm going to again color pick the next color. This is not the brighter, so it's just the medium color, I guess. And then I start painting over what I was painting before. So I'm recreating and try to follow the direction of the original leaves. In this case, the leaves are going in this direction. Going here, these are going like this, and this will be like going down. So you want to follow the pattern and the direction of the leaves, and come back here. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. And again, following the direction. It's okay if you don't see much at this stage, because right now we're just creating the shapes and the gradients. Okay, so when we reach this area where, you know, like leaves start pointing down versus pointing up, what I like to do is I start creating a circle, and then some leaves point down and some continue pointing up or to the side. So basically creating a circle that allows you to start like switching the direction of the leaves in a very natural way.
And I gave you a rose that you kept on seeing, kept on seeing.
This is where you would choose where the light source is coming from and start to paint the brighter leaves where the sun is hitting. Okay, so we have the sun, and now we have to start like painting the lighter areas of the tree. So color picking like brighter green. And again, because the sun is right here, this means that this area right here is going to be brighter than this one. Okay, so this is where we have to paint the brighter leaves the most. Okay, so let's go back. We paint in the same layer so that the brush gets to blend everything together. And I'm going to color pick the green, brighter green, and then I'm going to start painting the brighter leaves. Remember again to continue following the shape and direction of the leaves below. You don't have to paint them exactly where the originals were, but you do want to ensure that they follow the direction. This isn't the brightest that we're going to go with for the leaves, so you do get to add them a little bit over the whole bush. And then the final and the biggest, brightest highlights, those are going to be mostly focused on this area right here, in this area. because we're not following exactly the shape of the leaves below, or like drawing exactly over the leaves below. What it does is that it creates a sense of volume, because it feels like there are different leaves and not just the same leaves, and we're not just painting the same thing over and over. It feels like there's a wide variety of leaves in our bush or tree, and it just gives it a more natural look. You can be as detailed and precise as you want to, and if you don't want to, then you can just like leave it whenever you feel happy with it. Okay, now we can go ahead, color pick the brightest green, and now we're going to be focusing these on the side that the sun is actually illuminating the most. I would say you should be the most careful with these leaves to make them tree look the better, because these are the ones that are really going to stand out. While you could be a bit careless with the other strokes, I would recommend that you take a little bit more time with these to make it look as good as you possibly can. With this, you also want to, sometimes, doesn't have to be always, but you do want to go over the original leaves as closely as possible to again create that gradient that makes some of the leaves look like they are receiving extra light, versus it looking like you have a bunch of leaves that are just a whole different color for no reason. And on the other side, if you want to, here in this area that is more into shadows, you can choose like a purple hue that is still pretty blue, and then you can add some shadows inside, some leaves that are just with the blue tint, and that's going to give your tree a really nice appearance. When I reach this step, usually after painting everything else, I like to create a new layer at the top of everything, set it to luminosity, and then select an orange hue to represent the sun, and then let me reduce the size and just a little bit the opacity, and I like to go over the tree on that area and then like blend it just a little bit so it doesn't stand out too much, but that it still looks really nice, and blend it again. And you can also choose like purple blue color and just go over the other side as well. Let me see how it looks in purple. Okay, and then blur it and repeat the process just a little bit, and then blend again. So what this does is that it starts to create some volume, because here we're receiving like all of the sun and all of the warmth, and on this other side we are instead receiving like the cold colors, like reflecting the colors of the sky. Oops. So it can give it a really interesting sense of volume and make it fit and blend in even more with the environment. So feel free to continue playing around with this until you feel happy. But that is how I paint leaves and how I paint bushes. Alright, so I hope you found this tutorial useful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I will get back to you very soon. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!
But somewhere there's a light inside of us. It shows the way. Not looking for no heaven or gold, 'cause I got you. Don't wanna show